Alrighty, good morning everyone and welcome to today's webinar titled Explore Virtual Possibilities with Dell Private Cloud and Red Hat OpenShift. We're so glad you could join us. Thanks for carving out time in your day to be here. Thank you to our sponsors, Dell Technologies, Intel, and Red Hat. Some quick housekeeping reminders. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. That's a hot question. It is being recorded and it will be uploaded and sent out post-webinar. And if you have a question, please use the Q&A chat or put it, yes, please use the Q&A section. This helps us record all of your answers. We can see who asked the question and when it was answered. So rather than putting your questions in the normal chat, please use the Q&A function. It helps us get back to you if we need to in the future. Keep an eye on your emails. If you participate in all 4 weeks, you will get a chance to win a Dell Technologies C14 portable monitor. It is the season of giving, Christmas coming up, the holidays are approaching, so this would be a great gift or maybe a gift for yourself. So participate in all 4 weeks and you will be entered for a chance to win. Be sure to Oh, sorry. We'd like to hear from you. So at the end of the webinar, there will be a post-event survey. So 4 lucky survey participants will be randomly selected to a $25 Amazon gift card. So at the end of the webinar, as soon as we conclude, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey. Please fill it out. This also helps us bring you fresh and relevant content in the future for webinars. And without further ado, I'll kick it off to our presenters.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, everybody. Hey, welcome. This has been a series for us in terms of some of the solutions that we can bring your way in terms of what Red Hat and Dell are partnering on. And I'm really excited to be here today. I am Suzan Pickett. I am on the board of directors for the Elevate user community, which is a Dell Technologies user community. So if you have any questions about that, please ping me and let me know. I can watch chat and Q&A throughout, but it's not about me today. What I am really excited is to bring back some panelists that we've had in the past. So we have Kevin Tunks from Red Hat. Nice, Kevin. And we also have Kenny Lowe from Dell joining us, and I'll let you guys do a quick intro on yourselves. I don't need to speak for you. And then also welcome back is our super technologist, Michael Wells, who has keyed up some really cool demos for you today, more than one. So you guys sit back. We've got a few things to show and share with you today. So again, thanks for coming to our webinar. I hope you were able to attend our prior webinars with this group because I think they're very educational and very art of the possible, if you will, on what is coming and what can be. So with that, I'd really like to ask Kenny, Kenny, if you do want to do a real quick intro, because I didn't get deep on that for you.
Yeah.
And can you just talk to us a little bit about some of our prior sessions and some of the highlights?
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to. I won't spend long talking about myself because nobody cares. They're here for everything else. But this also isn't my show. This is for Kevin and Michael here. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time quickly recapping our previous sessions, just pull us up to speed for those that weren't there last time. Then I'll pass over to the real stars of the show here today to talk about what you're all here to hear about. But I guess we kicked off the first in this series of Dell Automation Platform related sessions a few weeks back, where I spent some time talking about, let's call it the genesis of the Dell Automation Platform, where it came from. I gave a broad overview of the Dell Private Cloud offer at the time. I didn't go into any of the offers in a deep way at the time, because I promised that we would have dedicated sessions to actually do them justice, rather than me just spending a few minutes here and there trying to do them justice. That's not good for anyone. So here we are making good on that promise with our first deep dive, which is into Dell Private Cloud deploying Red Hat OpenShift. And I guess if you're wondering if there's any reason why this is what we chose to share as our first deep dive, that's a great question. Well asked. I'm not going to answer it, but have a think about that. with that, I guess what I will do is I'll share the link to our previous recording in the chat so that for those that weren't here for the previous one, you can catch up. But without any further ado, I think I'm going to pass over to Kevin just to chat a little bit about the partnership, the history, Red Hat, OpenShift, anything and everything, Kevin. The floor is yours.
No, it's fantastic. Thank you, Kenny. And thank you, Suzanne. And thank you for all of you guys who have joined this and carved out time. I'm Kevin Tunks. I lead OpenShift for us globally in our ecosystem organization. So I get the pleasure of working with all of our partners, all of our channel members, and the partners that they make so important to make sure that we're doing a really good job solving problems for you guys. So I'm so excited to be here. I know this is probably my, I think, third or fourth Elevate session now, I want to say. So I'm very excited, very honored to be asked to come back. I really love working with you guys. It's really good feedback that we get from you too. And I know we're going to put up a couple of surveys along the way. We'd love to get that information from you, get your feedback as we go with this, because ultimately we want to tailor this message and what we're talking about to you, right? Making it as relevant and specific as we can for you. So just in terms of the relationship, Dell has been such a critical part of Red Hat's history, frankly. For 20 plus years now, we have been tightly connected as we brought innovation after innovation, whether it's operating systems, automation capabilities, the OpenShift platform from a hybrid cloud capability, and now AI and the AI factory work that we're doing together as well with NVIDIA. All of these pieces have been a very, very tightly integrated set of functions that we've co-engineered and brought these pieces together. Kind of the big area that we're focused on and obviously focused on with this conversation is virtualization. And how virtualization also ties in a little bit with the AI conversation too. They are not stovepipe. They're not completely separated. They actually start to flow in pretty seamlessly together when you bring Dell's capability and Red Hat's capabilities together. So excited to talk to you about those. Excited to talk about kind of what your needs are, especially as the market has changed so quickly. In the change out of virtualization world, right, where we were all using kind of the same virtualization provider, which was a great one, and they are still continue to be a very good virtualization provider. But there are some changes in terms of the amount of cost control associated with them, and there's some changes in terms of flexibility and choice. And so part of what we're doing together here in our new focus, or a very big focus for the Dell and Red Hat teams coming together, is to give you more freedom, flexibility, and choice in how you move forward. Some of you will frankly just can stay with your legacy virtualization provider. We get that, or just keep parts of what you do on that legacy and provider. Others will look to have a more simplified, co-engineered, co-tested solution that is brought to the market. And that's kind of the piece that I want to get into and talk to you a little bit more as we go through, because we know that customers early on, some very, very large customers, Fortune 200 sized organizations have already started that journey, moving 50, 60, 70, 80,000 plus virtual machines over from their legacy provider to OpenShift virtualization. Many of them using Dell technologies as part of their hardware and storage providers in that space, but using OpenShift virtualization as their landing zones to be able to run their most critical workloads. So excited to share some lessons learned, excited to answer some questions from you guys about what that means as we go forward.
Yeah, and I think that's, if you guys are okay with it, that might be a really good time for us to put up one of our first quick polls, which is what barriers are you all experiencing? And so we really just kind of like to get an idea if you guys are cool with taking the quick survey. We'll give you a few seconds to do that. And I'll just keep talking like a radio host while we're doing it. I can monologue all day long, you guys, about this stuff. So, one of the great things that I heard you mention, Kevin, was if not quite an agnostic approach, a more open approach, or kind of bring your own, or that flexibility. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that actually means? Because one of the
Yeah.
things that really excited me was, during COVID, we had some supply chain issues, and now that stuff's getting to be 4 or 5 years old. So we're starting to look to replace it. And it was a little bit of a mix and match. So, in our more traditional virtualization days, that was a challenge. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, right? One of the things that open technologies and Red Hat's supported versions of those open technologies really brings is the ability for you to really design an a la carte solution that is exactly right for you, minimizing the disruption of the pieces that you have to change so you can ultimately where you have life left in your environments, you can reuse hardware, you can repurpose things, you can reuse or repurpose storage capabilities, you can reuse data protection or networking capabilities, while also infusing a change into your platform environment. So having the flexibility to adapt and adjust to those different conditions, there's no doubt it makes the solutions a little bit more complex, at least complex sounding, because you got to answer some more decisions about what you want to do. But you also have that resiliency to say, well, today I just want something that's going to focus on my virtualization to virtualization migration activities. But tomorrow I want to be able to use that same platform to deploy onto cloud, to deploy to the edge, to deploy and have developer experiences that deploy applications to all those different locations. I want to be able to seamlessly experiment with my AI capabilities and say, I want to go all in with one particular framework, or I want to mix and match and adapt frameworks for the individual AI use case that I'm trying to do, whether that's generative or predictive or otherwise. So I think what we're seeing is that desire to have open design to minimize the disruption, but at the same time, and this is the balance, and this is what we're always seeking to get right or improve on, I should say. We're seeking that ability to say, hey, here's some opinionated ways that we can show you how to put these things together with really great partners like Dell that simplify that transition journey. So you don't have to make as many decisions. You don't have to take on as much individual decision making. We can show you a faster path that we know works, that we continuously test for working, and really rely on that for faster decision making and simplified activity. So we're trying to find that combination of very opinionated architectures and very loosely coupled, I'll call them a la carte applications, right? When it's a different amount of design that you do.
Boutique.
Last thing I want to mention on just real quickly, last thing I want to tag on to that little quip is we know that a lot of the professionals in the space are VMware admins, right? Like they have become very, very comfortable with the operations of a technology that they've been using for 20 plus years. And so part of this opinionated approach and a la carte approach is to make it easier for the admins that are retooling, upskilling their tooling, like learning some new skills, adapting a little bit as they go in these operations of new capabilities, to be able to reuse a lot of their understanding and their skills and knowledge and quickly cross that barrier to not only be able to do virtualization platforms, but also be able to have very long careers, very real relevancy as they go into containerized applications and AI-based applications as well. So kind of helping make that shift from people who are feeling very embedded, very kind of concerned about the reusability and applicability of their skills to a future state. We're working really, really hard with Dell to help make that easier for people to take on those new skills.
Yeah, and I think that probably resonates with most of us who have spent most of our careers, our highlighted careers in a certain virtualization platform. So thank you for bringing that up. Now that would be a perfect segue to bring Michael in to do one of his demos. But before we do that, really quick, because I'm not sure that it showed on the screen for everybody, and if it did, just holler and let me know. I wanted to let you know just the quick results of that survey, because no one ever tells you that. 50, there you go, thank you. 50% of you said, quite honestly, VMware is too embedded in your current infrastructure, right? Cost is not favorable. That's probably something that your account people can help you work on, because trust me, there's options out there. And then the solutions are too confusing. So, with that, I think Michael has some demos for you that might help address some of that. Maybe not the cost, but we can talk a little bit about the automation, the integration, even lifecycle management, depending on which demo Michael wants to show you, because I'm going to let him pick and choose that. So, hey, Michael.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Michael Wells. I'm an engineering technologist with Dell, and I am part of the product team for the Dell Private Cloud deploying Red Hat OpenShift. So what I will do just to start out, let's jump into a VM migration. So this is migrating a virtual machine from a vCenter environment over to OpenShift virtualization. So the first thing we're going to do, we've got the migration toolkit for virtualization operator installed. This is a free operator that's available from the Red Hat Operator Hub. We have here so once we've installed the operator, we're going to create an instance of what's referred to as a forklift controller. This is what's actually going to do the work. Once we have that forklift controller deployed, we're going to create a provider that connects back to the vCenter environment. And so as we go into this provider, it's pretty basic configuration. The URL for the vCenter environment with that /SDK, because we're going to point to the SDK for that. The credentials to log into that environment. And then the other major piece here is that VDDK init image, which is actually going to be used to do that conversion of the VMDK to a QEMU file. So we've created this provider, we've connected to this system. I can go through and browse the virtual machines that are on that vCenter instance. I can see the ESXi hosts. And so from there, the next step is we're going to create a migration plan. So here I have a migration plan that I've pre-created. As we look at this, you can see I'm doing a cold migration. I do also have the ability to do a warm migration, but in this case, we're going to do cold, which means I'm going to take a VM that's powered off on the vCenter environment and bring it over to the OpenShift environment powered off. I have my target project. This is where I want that VM to move to. My source and target providers. So my source provider is going to be vCenter. My target provider is OpenShift. There'll be some other settings that we'll run through. We're going to look, I can have one virtual machine, or I can have a whole group of virtual machines in here. As I expand out that virtual machine, you'll see any warning messages, anything that you need to be informed of. If the tooling sees an issue that would prevent migration from occurring successfully, that would be listed here. Most of the stuff that we have here is the fact that change block tracking is not enabled on the VMware side, which is why we're doing a cold migration. And then the fact that there's some architectural differences, so some informational pieces to say, hey, we're going to make these changes because you're coming from VMware. From there, we're going to look at the mappings. So we have a network mapping, which is saying, okay, we're going to take these virtual networks from the vCenter side, and we're going to map them to these resources on the OpenShift side. So in this case, I'm just taking the management network from vCenter, and I'm saying anything that's connected to that network is going to be connected to the pod network on the OpenShift side. This is an interesting thing because OpenShift virtualization is running in a container. I inherit the access to the pod network, which is really cool. It means By default, I can talk to the pod network and I can talk to any other pods that are running on that cluster. That means other VMs, that means other containerized workloads. I inherit that capability. If I need to secure things, I can absolutely do that, but by default, I can map it to the pod network. That means that if I have a virtual machine that's going to call into a containerized API, I can immediately access that through service.namespace addressing. I don't need to expose that API outside of the cluster and come in through an ingress controller and all of that other stuff. So it minimizes the attack surface and makes that configuration a lot simpler. Right. The other mapping piece that I need to do is the storage mapping. So I'm going to say, all right, any virtual disk that's stored within this data store, I want to map to this storage class. So what it's going to do is it's going to take that VMDK, it's actually going to provision a new volume on the storage based on the storage class that I'm telling it to use. In this case, it's a power store. It'll create a new volume on that power store, convert the VMDK over. I also have the ability to do hooks, so I can do pre and post migration hooks if I need to make changes. But we're going to go ahead and start this migration. As we start this off, we'll click over to the VM tab, and then I can actually see the progress as this is occurring. Now, this has been pre-recorded and sped up a little bit, but it's actually doing the image conversion, creating all the VM resources, and then you can see we have the virtual machine created. There's the pod that it's running in. We'll run over here to the virtual machine and start it up. And here we'll see that virtual machine start to boot. This happens to be a Windows virtual machine that we've migrated over from vCenter. And while I have the console, that's generally not how we're going to access a Windows virtual machine, right? So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to create an RDP service to expose remote desktop so that I can RDP over to this VM. So going to desktop viewer, I'm going to expose an RDP service. It's going to use node port by default. And there you can see down here under services, it's actually spun up this WinServer 01 RDP service. And so now when I go over, I can do launch remote desktop. That's going to download a .rdp file, which I can then use to connect to that virtual machine. And so now without exposing any of the rest of the virtual machine, I've just basically put this Kubernetes service in front of it that allows me to RDP into that virtual machine without creating this massive attack surface. And here we have this virtual machine that was converted over, was running on vCenter and is now running on OpenShift. So thank you very much.
That is just such a terrific example of what this is, right? And I love the fact that you chose a Windows VM, not a Linux VM, but a Windows VM. For all of you wondering, right? Does it handle both? It handles both. And that's a really important piece of this, because I think people naturally think, number one, it's going to all be a bunch of YAML. It's going to look like I'm reading the Matrix. Nope. This is all point and click, guys. If you're used to click ops, here you go. It is not that bad. And it's just a steady flow of activity as you make choices, set configurations, execute in a very, very logical, very simplified way. So nice job. Nice job.
And here we have, this is that virtual machine actually running. And I really have to give Red Hat a lot of credit here. The amount of innovation that's happened in OpenShift virtualization over the last 2 years has just been incredible. They've completely redesigned the management interface here for folks that are coming from a more GUI-centric way of doing things. It is a much easier mechanism of doing that. I don't have to go dig through a whole bunch of pods on the system, right? I just go into virtualization, into virtual machines, and this tree view is going to show me all of the virtual machines across all of the projects that I, as a user, have access to. And then I can go through and look at these individual virtual machines. I can work with these VMs. I can adjust configuration and do all this from this easy tree view. and I don't have to click around to all these different pages. And if you really want to, the YAML is, of course, absolutely still there. I encourage people to understand that, because the processes that you build, the automations that you build around workload management are going to give you amazing capabilities, not just in the virtualization space, but downstream in terms of containerized applications, serverless AI. It's all the same constructs under the covers.
That's I think probably a good lead in to, we have a question in the Q&A. And I think we covered this in our last round, but I think it's worth repeating. So the question, everyone, is, what's the recommended way to start learning about this? Should I learn Dell Cloud Platform and then Red Hat OpenShift, or vice versa? And what are the resources that are out there for self-learning, free, paid, etc.? And Kenny, I think you, maybe it was you that had some more educational topics last time, but I could be wrong on that. Does anybody want to take that?
I'm going to throw that well over to the other guys here
Okay,
to answer
sure.
first.
So I'll jump in here. It really doesn't matter which direction you start from, right? So when we talk about Dell Private Cloud deploying Red Hat OpenShift, we're not changing anything about OpenShift. OpenShift has all of the features and capabilities that OpenShift has. We're just adding new capabilities through the automation platform and through our Dell Private Cloud extension to elevate that infrastructure and automation, uh, to do new things with it. So whether you're starting with OpenShift or you're starting with Dell Private Cloud, it really doesn't make a difference. If you register with Red Hat as a Red Hat developer, you can get access to NFR licenses for RHEL. You can run OpenShift. You can run it on your own hardware as a single node OpenShift. You can you even have access to the OpenShift sandbox environment as a developer, so that you can actually jump into an environment and start to deploy things within that sandbox, to be able to get hands-on and learn things. It is a great way to do that. We also have a number of materials within our Dell Demo Center for interactive demos, as well as hands-on labs that can be utilized for additional learning, with more of that coming all the time. So there's a lot of resources out there that are available, and I'm happy to help point anybody to any more detail.
Absolutely right. There are multiple entry points into this process, and this is an area that at Red Hat we've really listened and heard a lot as well. So the Dell pieces of this, if you're coming from more of the physical infrastructure and storage pieces up, that's a great entry point to it. And there's a lot of content that Kenny and Michael and the Dell team in general have put out there, so you can learn just how flexible and adaptable that solution is for running, frankly, not just Red Hat, right? They can run multiple platforms on top of there, and be flexible about who they deploy on it. That's a real benefit, right, to us and to you guys, to have that flexibility. We're thrilled for that. The other area I do want to focus on is we've created and continue to create a tremendous learning path, formal learning path that helps VMware admins, other technical folks that want to learn this technology and get certifications in it. You can come in through that. In addition to what Michael was talking about the free developer solutions, you can come into that pathway with us at a massively discounted price. And we also are starting to put out more no-cost free YouTube videos that are a great way to dip your toe in the water and learn a little bit about what's happening. So one of the really easy ways to get those, connect with me on LinkedIn. Thrilled to have you as part of that from a follow-up perspective. I suspect Michael and Kenny and others do this as well, where we put a lot of these videos out that you can very simply understand, do some of the research yourself, understand what some of these concepts are. We have a framework that we're using called 3-15-30. 3-minute videos or short ones where you just kind of get executive level, like like top end, like, hey, we do this kind of stuff. Hey, did you know kind of stuff.
Mm.
15-minute being more of a feature comparison type activity, so that you can do research on sort of understanding what are the features, what are the parity, how do I get more information, and then 30-minute or more kind of videos that are follow me videos where people are actually doing the implementations, similar to what Michael just did in the demo here, so that you could follow along. So if you set up your environment with a single node OpenShift cluster to learn about this environment, you have somebody that you can follow along with. So I'd encourage you to check those out. And if it's easier to access them, just link onto my LinkedIn, and happy to, you'll see a lot of that and can follow it right there on YouTube in the open.
Yeah,
Sure.
and if you guys are open to it, I'll talk to the Elevate team too about potentially just having pointers from our Elevate page to some of the resources that you guys have put in, Michael, you've put in the chat. So everyone needs to just get started. And so a lot of times having a lot of those tools, and I think we talked about a lab last time too, potentially. So I might be misremembering that. That reminds me, guys, we do have one more poll, if you can bear with me. And if you're open to it, let's go ahead and put the poll. And it's really, what are you guys looking for? What do you need? And well, the question is, what capabilities are most important to you? So looks like we're getting some good responses there.
And if the answer is other, put it in the chat.
It depends. That's what's not other. It depends. Right? So that's what we do. Cost.
Yeah.
Kind of ease of management and cost are vying for first. Well, they're tied right now. So scalability, cost, ease of management, security, cost, and ease of management. So also very near and dear to my heart. And so I think we have seen a little bit of some of the ease of management, right? Making it look and feel a little bit more like what we're used to seeing in kind of that intuitive interface that you all have worked on, Red Hat's worked on over the last couple of years. With that, Michael, did you want to talk us through a little bit about integration?
Yeah, absolutely. And as we talk about ease of management, right? So Red Hat has done an amazing job of making Kubernetes and KubeVirt easier to manage. And we're taking that and taking it a step further by building in that integration with the hardware level as well. So here I'm on a Dell Private Cloud cluster already. So here we're in the OpenShift web console. If I click on the Dell Private Cloud menu here, I'll be able to pull up the summary of that cluster. I can see the health state, utilization of the cluster. I'll be able to see version information. So my Dell Private Cloud software, that's the Dell Private Cloud extension that's running on top of the cluster, the hardware version, the OpenShift version here. I can drill into the inventory. I can see the nodes that make up this cluster. So here we have a 3-node cluster. I can drill into the individual nodes. I can look at individual components within a node. So here are a couple disks on the front of the unit. I can also flip onto the back. Here are the BOS drives that are where the operating system's actually stored. I can see information regarding those. I can drill into power supplies. I can even go into individual NIC ports. So I can look at a MAC address, link speed. Is that links up or down? If I had GPUs in this configuration, I'd be able to see them here as well. So having that information available to me right from within this interface. So jump back out here. I'm going to skip the updates piece because we'll talk about that in a bit, but managing certificates, but not just the Dell private cloud certificate, but also the OpenShift Ingress and OpenShift API certificates can also be managed from right here as well. And it'll tell me, all right, are these manual certificates? Are these automatic? So for instance, the API certificate's automatic, so that'll rotate on its own. As this starts to near expiration, this will become an informational that say, hey, this certificate's about to expire, but it's going to rotate automatically As the others that are manual, you'll get a warning as they start to approach expiration, and then eventually it'll go critical before the certificate expires, so that you know to come in here, select certificate, update, paste in the new values, and you're all set. Settings, we can support network proxies, support configuration, and then here we have our log information. So here I can generate a log bundle. I can select the information, so the Dell Private Cloud software components, the iDRAC components, the cluster information, which is going to include the must gather information. So I can say create, it'll create that bundle for me. And then once I have that, I can either download or delete those bundles as needed. And then also through the Dell Automation Platform, we can connect back to the Dell support backend. So any issues that happen, it will report into OpenShift alerting, but it will also report up to the automation platform, up to the orchestrator, so that it can be reported back to Dell if you've configured that connectivity to be able to do things like automatic support case creation, things like that, secure remote support, all those capabilities. The last part I wanted to show quickly is lifecycle management. So here we're going to log into this cluster. This particular cluster is running at a lower version. So we go on to the Dell Private Cloud menu, and then we're going to select updates. We'll see that there's no updates available at the moment. So what we're going to do is upload files. On a connected system, these recommendation and service data bundle files will be, it'll check for updates every 4 hours automatically. In a disconnected system, or in this case, because it's a lab environment, we have to manually update that file. But essentially what that recommendation file did was it said, okay, based on the OpenShift version that you're currently running, here are the supported software and hardware versions that you should be running. And so because of that update file, it now showed us, hey, you've got 2 updates that are available. The next thing we're going to do is upload the service data bundle. This is that pre-update health check logic that we're going to run through. So now I'm going to go through and install the update. So the update I said to install is selected here, and I have the option of including the other update as well. So I'm going to go ahead and check that. Say next here. It's going to say, all right, where am I going to get those updates from? Do you want me to download them from support, or do you want to upload them manually? In an internet connected system, I would just do online bundle download, but in a disconnected, I would download them manually through the support website, and then I would choose local bundle upload. Here I can multi-select those 2 files, say upload, and it's going to go through and upload and unpack those bundles. Now that that's done, we're going to do that pre-update health check. This is just making sure that the cluster is in a healthy enough state to actually proceed with that update. And then we're going to go through and review the changes. So based on those update files, here are all of the components that are going to be touched, their current version, the target version, and is it going to require a reboot or not. And then once we've reviewed that, we're just going to say next, say update. It'll say it's going to take about this long, say update again. And here we're actually going to kick off and run through that update process. Of course, this has been sped up because none of us wants to sit here for an hour. But this gives you an idea as to what that workflow is going to run through. Once it's done, we hit finish. It's going to take us back, and you'll see that the cluster version has now changed from 0.1 to 0.99.
Which is all.
Yes.
Oh, no, keep going. No, keep going, Michael. Keep going.
So in that process, we've updated the Dell Private Cloud extension and all of the hardware components. So BIOS, firmware, drivers, the drive firmware, NIC firmware, HBA firmware, iDRAC components, all of that's been managed together. And it's all been done in a rolling update that's not going to interfere with any of the workloads running on the cluster. And it's all done in a continuously validated state. So that recommendation file that we push out, tells you that all of these components are tested and validated to work together as expected.
That's pretty
Where
awesome.
I was just going to say, Suzanne, where I get so excited about the work that we've done together on this is it really takes the toil out of maintaining hygiene in your environment, right? Everybody has cybersecurity risks. Many have cybersecurity challenges. The if you can remove the really nasty toil out of maintaining hygiene in your environment, those risks are significantly less. And so that's an area that we are very, very excited about. You pair that with, say, an Ansible activity on top of this to manage and update VMs and the worker nodes that are happening on top of this now really great platform environment. You've got an amazingly scalable, amazingly adaptive approach to handle large scale management. And I don't know, Susanna, if you want to go in a different direction here, but I was going to say just a minute on cost, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
All right, because that was the other hot one that came in on the poll, and I totally understand where you guys are coming from. Part of this is what we can do now is really time these refreshed activities where you're at a natural hardware refresh point. We know that most customers are naturally refreshing 20 to 30% or so of their hardware on a yearly basis to deal with the normal lifespan of hardware. Part of what's great about having a solution like Dell Private Cloud is that you can refresh your core hardware with your normalized approach using a hub and spoke model for this. You have the ability to then to repurpose legacy hardware and connect it into the hub cluster running on Dell Private Cloud. So you have this extensibility and reusability for your legacy hardware investments, your legacy software investments, which simplifies your core, but then allows you to reuse, repurpose, and get the full life expectancy out of your existing investments as well. So that's a huge piece of this, right? You don't get the toil reduction in those repurposed gear like you do with the Dell Private Cloud clean core to it, but you can still reuse those pieces. And with that, the last piece of it is because we know a lot of customers are overwhelmingly going to be doing virtualization to virtualization migrations where they're just moving VMs from where they were onto a new platform. That migration happens onto a version of OpenShift that is very inexpensive. We call it OpenShift Virtualization Engine. So you can have clusters dedicated at that low cost. But where you want to run third-party ISV technologies, software technologies that are already containerized, you can run on a slightly more expensive environment that just for those pieces, not for all of it, just for those pieces on OpenShift Kubernetes engine or OKE. And then that goes up to modernization and AI features. So just because you want to unlock a feature of a level of OpenShift or OpenShift virtualization environment, it doesn't mean your entire environment has to all be at that price point. You just put the right workload in the right cluster at the right price point in order to get that ROI. We're seeing a lot of customers achieve upwards of 50% cost savings over a 3-year ROI calculation. So if you're interested in those spaces, right, we know you get an early cost bump when you're running in parallel, but when you start looking at a 3 or certainly a 5-year TCO environment, the numbers become incredibly compelling.
Yeah, especially for your leadership. So I'll put that plug there. And Kevin, I kind of want to wrap us up a little bit, but I'm going to summarize what I saw today. And that is, we saw how easily with some prep and planning that we could migrate a VM to Red Hat OpenShift. We saw a little bit about integration to the point where we could actually see the back of a node. The third thing we saw was a little bit about day 2 activities, maintenance, updates, keeping things current, which trust me is pretty important to the powers that be within your own environments. And then I think the biggest takeaway for me today is flexibility. Nobody wants to be tied in or tied down to a specific provider, and then, you know, perhaps held to some of those rising costs. So migration, integration, lifecycle management, flexibility, and I will stop there. Anybody, and automation as well, right? Being able to layer automation on top with the Ansible and the workloads. And so the more you play, the more you can accomplish here. And we've talked a little bit too about some available training and educational resources. Your account teams will be very willing to help you in this space, so don't be afraid to ask. And I am going to just ask for any final words from
Yeah.
our panel.
I tried to stay quiet, but I can't. I can't do it. I need to talk.
That's the
Um,
problem. We're all kind of chatty,
I
right?
know. But it's good because you came back to automation there, and maybe I can just round out on a bit of automation there as well, because that was the first thing I spoke about, the automation platform there. And Michael spoke really well about the day two operations, what we call day two, which I think is a terrible misnomer because it's day two through to day 2000 or whatever, and
Yes.
it's all those days. It's the most important part of running a platform because that's when the workloads run and that's when everything actually matters. So that's where we're putting huge amounts of engineering effort in to make sure when you apply an update, it's going to work. And that's through the lifetime of the platform. So day two is the most important. Day one is also important. So day one, the initial deployment there is important. And how we bring some additional automation to that, I think, is super critical as well, because that initial day one is what sets you up for success. And you might say, well, day one is done by the assisted installer, isn't it? There's this awesome OpenShift assisted installer. It does everything, so we don't need to do anything there. And yes, the OpenShift assisted installer is awesome, often copied, never imitated, I often say. But there are some things that we need to do before running the assisted installer. So we need to do iDRAC settings and BIOS UEFI settings and get the firmware of every single component to the appropriate level and then validate all that. Then call the OpenShift assisted installer. And then after that's finished, then install CSI, CSM modules and integrate storage. And there are post deployment tasks as well. So what we've done is wrap all that together as one automated workflow where you run the automation from the Dell Automation Platform to do the deployment, and it's going to do all of that. And we don't reinvent the wheel there. We call the OpenShift assisted installer to do that piece because it is amazing, and it just works. But we wrap a whole bunch of other stuff around the front end and back end of that to make sure there is no manual effort involved there. So it's like it's complementary. It's like wrapping a warm blanket around that existing awesomeness there. Is how
And
I'd frame it.
addresses that ease of management piece that I think a lot of people are concerned about coming from their prior platform. So
Michael has it up on screen just now, actually. So this is what we call the execution graph of an OpenShift deployment. So every single step within here are things that you need to do as part of an OpenShift deployment here. One of these is called the assisted installer, which then does a vast amount of other stuff. But these are all the individual steps that we're automating within here outside of that. So I think good visual representation.
nice. Okay, guys, with that, I want to again thank our panelists, Kevin, Kenny, Michael. Thank you again for coming today. Michael, thank you for the amazing demos as well. And I'll ask our Elevate crew if they have any final words.
Nope, we are all set. If there's
Okay.
no final questions or anything, just a reminder that this session was recorded, so we will send this out to all registrants. So rest assured, you will have access to this webinar.
Great. And then anything about the survey or the monitor that you
Yes,
wanted
I
to
will
follow up with? I know you
paste.
mentioned that in the beginning, so I just want to make sure if you need to mention it again, you can.
Yep, thank you for the reminder. I'll paste that
Mhm.
post survey. So in addition to our post survey, please take this post survey as well. Here, let me paste it in the chat. There we go. So if you guys can click on that link I just pasted in the chat, it will take you a few minutes, and then at the conclusion of the Zoom, we will also have an additional survey for you to fill out. So maybe like a minute total of your time. Thank you so much for the 50 minutes you already dedicated today. We
And if
appreciate
you're in
you all
the
for joining.
EU, sorry about that. Didn't mean to interrupt. If you're in the EU, we will figure out how to make those viable gift cards. Okay.
Terrific.
Anything else?
Thank you guys so much. If you have questions, don't hesitate, reach out. We're excited to work with you.
Thanks,
Thank-
everyone.
It's great stuff, you
Thank you.
guys. Great stuff. Really, really pleased to see how it's coming. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Thanks for joining. And I hope you have a good rest of your week.
Thank you.